Welcome to HFY Aliens Battle, where humanity proves that we are not to be underestimated. If you love stories of human resilience, bravery, and defiance against overwhelming odds, you're in the right place. Subscribe now to HFY Aliens Battle and never miss a fight for humanity's survival. Hit the bell icon so you're always ready for the next battle. Now let's dive into today's story. They called it the Galactic Accord, a vast alliance of over 77 known species. Peacekeepers, scientists, builders, traders, an interstellar council formed to guide the stars into an era of cooperation and enlightenment. It was supposed to be the greatest achievement in galactic history. And Earth wasn't invited, not because we were unreachable, not because they didn't know we existed, but because they had decided we weren't ready. They sent a message, a formal one, polite, distant, final. Humanity is advised to continue its internal development. Galactic integration may be reconsidered in future millennia. They didn't say no. They said, maybe later, which really meant never. The official reasons were carefully worded. Too unstable, too emotional, too violent, too new. But behind closed doors, it was simpler than that. They were afraid of us, afraid of our unpredictability, afraid of our history, afraid of the stories, because humans didn't evolve in balance. We didn't find peace through harmony. We fought for every inch of our survival. We clawed our way from extinction-level winters, supervolcanoes, asteroid strikes, and our own worst instincts. And somehow we survived. We made art out of pain, wrote philosophy with blood still on our hands, laughed in the face of the void and asked, "Is that all you've got?" To the Accord, we weren't undeveloped. We were uncomfortable, too loud in the silence of their utopia. So they locked the door, and for a while, we just stared at it. We watched the transmissions from deep space, treaties being signed, technologies being shared, cultures blending, trading, evolving together. We watched alien leaders shake hands, or the closest thing their anatomy allowed, on massive star stations we would never visit. And back home, we tried not to care. We told ourselves we didn't need them, that we'd chart our own path. But in the quiet corners of Earth, it hurt. Not because we needed their help, but because we were ready, and they never even gave us a chance. There were debates, heated ones. Should we fight? Hack their comms? Send a message back with teeth in it? But in the end, we didn't do any of that. We went quiet, not in surrender, in choice. The moment the door was closed, humanity didn't rage against it. We just turned around and built something else. They thought we'd crumble. Maybe not all at once, but eventually. That's how it went for most rejected species. Isolation led to decay. Decay led to silence. And silence led to extinction. But humans, we do things differently. We didn't send a reply, didn't protest, didn't scream into the void. We just went quiet, not out of shame, out of focus. Earth stopped trying to prove itself to a galaxy that wouldn't listen. Instead, we turned inward. Governments changed. Borders faded. For the first time in 1,000 years, humanity found a shared purpose, not in conquest, not in profit, but in potential. They didn't want us in their skies? Fine. We'd build our own. The first thing we did was stop broadcasting. No more signals into deep space. No more open transmissions. No more shouting into a galaxy that already made up its mind. We disappeared on purpose. Above Earth, new satellites went dark to alien sensors. Not broken, cloaked. Old orbital junk vanished. Old networks shifted underground. The next thing we did was invest, not in war, but in possibility. We built stations where we shouldn't have been able to, on the edges of gravity wells, inside gas giants, beneath the crust of frozen moons. We engineered new engines, ones that bent space in ways the Accord said were impossible under current physics. They were right under their physics. And for the first time, we didn't share a single discovery. Not with allies, not with spies, not even with the few friendly species who had once offered to vouch for us. We said thank you, and then we closed the door ourselves. Because if the galaxy didn't think we were ready, then we'd become something they couldn't even comprehend. Every school on Earth began teaching xenolinguistics. Not just theory, practical alien language. Kids in third grade could read 3 dialects of Accord script before they learned algebra. AI development exploded. Not focused on consumer tools. Focused on strategy, on defense, on preparation. We studied the Galactic Accord more than they studied themselves. Learned their weaknesses. Mapped their trade patterns. Monitored their political fractures. We didn't plan to attack. We just planned to never be dependent again. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, a megastructure took shape. Not a weapon. A vault. Housing not gold, but knowledge. Every cultural fragment of Earth preserved in case we ever vanished. Not for us. For whoever came next. We weren't building for the present. We were building for the legacy. And through it all, we never once asked the galaxy to let us in. Because we weren't waiting anymore. We were working. Quietly. Relentlessly. Without permission, without approval, because we weren't preparing to join their story. We were preparing to write our own. Time passed. Not days. Not months. Centuries. 3 full generations rose and fell within the Galactic Accord without ever hearing the word human. And the few who remembered stopped saying it out loud. Because Earth had vanished. No signals. No ships. No transmissions. No sightings. Just one blank spot on the star charts. A region marked with red lines and ancient warnings. Do not enter. System quarantined. Most species ignored it. Some laughed at the legend. Others feared it, like the dark patch on a child's bedroom wall that you just don't look at too long. No one really knew what happened to humanity. Some said our own tech consumed us. Others believed we ascended. One species had a religious sect convinced Earth was a test set by the stars. But the truth? We never left. We just closed the curtains. And behind them, we thrived. Our cities moved underground, not out of fear, but out of choice. We redirected sunlight, created controlled ecosystems, built towers beneath the crust. On the surface, we let the world heal. Forests grew back. Oceans cleared. The air stopped choking. We weren't just hiding from the galaxy. We were outgrowing it. By the time the Accord made its 1,000th species member official, Earth had developed technology the rest of the galaxy had no language for. Engines that didn't just move ships, they folded probability. Medicine that could reverse time on a cellular level. Satellites that weren't made of metal or circuits, but of thought itself. And our AIs? They didn't just run systems. They asked questions. They wondered. They wrote poetry. They challenged us, not with rebellion, but with ideas we hadn't considered. We didn't fear them. We called them ardent, and they watched over us like digital stars, each one bound to a human partner. Not master, not creator, partner. We'd stopped trying to catch up to the galaxy a long time ago, because we realized something. The galaxy had stopped growing. It was stable, comfortable, proud of its systems, its hierarchy, its tidy lanes of progress. And in that comfort, it became soft, stale, predictable. Earth? We didn't have those luxuries. We had to fight for every breakthrough. We had to fail harder, dream bigger, bleed smarter. And we did. All of it. In isolation. And still, no one came looking. Not the Union. Not the Accord. Not the old friends who once said they'd speak for us at the Council. The galaxy moved on without us. Until one day, we were ready. Not for war. Not for revenge. For return. But we weren't going to knock on their door again. No. This time, we'd let them see us. And wonder how they ever thought the stars would be better off without us. It started with a glitch. A pirate vessel. Nothing special. Drifting too far past the edge of mapped space. They were chasing rumors. Lost cargo. Abandoned tech. Easy credits for low morals. The crew didn't know what they were near. They didn't care. Until the static hit. Every system on the ship flickered. Lights dimmed. Weapons went cold. Navigation spun into nonsense. Then silence. No alarms. No movement. Just dead space. And in the quiet, something began to emerge from the dark. Not fast. Not loud. Just present. A ship. Blacker than space. No lights. No heat signature. It didn't glow. It absorbed glow. The pirates opened comms. Got no response. They sent a scan. And then they made their final mistake. They fired. A warning shot, they told themselves. Just in case. The return fire wasn't a missile. It wasn't even a beam. It was a moment. A spike in energy so fast, it passed through their hull before the ship even knew it had been hit. Systems shattered. Memory cores melted. Engines collapsed into themselves like they were embarrassed. Only one escape pod ejected. Only one pirate survived. She was picked up weeks later, drifting near a refueling station. No memory of how she got there. No records. No ID. Just one phrase, scratched over and over into the walls of the pod. They were never gone. Word spread, fast and quiet. Smugglers whispered about it in low orbit around outlaw moons. Accord agents marked it as disinformation, but never explained why their files had been redacted. Miners started reporting anomalies near ancient dead sectors. Signals, movements, shadows, ships that didn't match any known design. One freight hauler caught it on a security cam, a triangular silhouette hovering above a derelict station. No markings, just watching, then gone. Some called it fake, others human, but the stories were picking up speed. And the Accord? They weren't laughing anymore, because something was happening. Something organized. Old defense satellites were going dark. Black box logs from missing ships were being recovered by someone, and they all carried the same message. Not lost. Collected. The Union tried to dismiss it. Said it was pirates. Said it was AI errors. Said it was myth. But deep inside their classified networks, in the files only the highest-ranking members could see, there was a new tag. Sapient species. Humanity. Status. Unknown. Activity. Reactive. Threat level. Escalating. For the first time in 200 years, Earth had reappeared. In a galaxy? It was beginning to understand something far too late. We hadn't vanished. We'd been watching. The wormhole opened over Caltris Prime. No one knew how. No build-up. No gravitational disturbance. No radiation surge. It just was. 1 second, the sky was clear. The next split open. A perfect circle of twisting light, humming with layered frequencies not found in any known physics. The Accord scrambled. Sensors activated. Defense grids armed. Broadcast sent. Unregistered spatial anomaly. Then the ships came through. 1, 2, 5, 20. Sleek. Cold. Massive. Black holes trimmed in blue. Lights that pulse like heartbeats. Engines that made no sound, but pushed shock waves through the vacuum. They didn't follow formation protocols. They didn't transmit credentials. They just existed, and their very existence felt like a challenge. Some thought it was a new species. Others feared it was a rogue AI network. But when the first one passed close enough for visual identification, the answer sent a tremor through every Accord channel. On its side, etched in a clean line of white light, TES Horizon, Terran Exodus ship. Terran, as in Earth, as in human. The Accord's response was confused at first. Establish contact. Request clarification. Determine purpose. The humans didn't answer. They didn't fire. They didn't even acknowledge the Accord ships that flanked them. They just kept moving out of the wormhole into the system. And then they began fixing things. A solar relay long thought irreparable, repaired within an hour. A planetary energy grid on the verge of collapse, stabilized with a single pulse from an orbiting Terran ship. A disease ravaging a nearby moon colony, neutralized overnight, with no demand for payment, no need for credit. No words, just action. And that terrified the Accord more than any weapon, because it meant humanity didn't come to beg, didn't come to join. They came to show, to remind the stars of what had been cast aside, of what had been left behind, and what had evolved without permission. The Accord tried again. This time, they sent emissaries, small ships, peaceful, respectful. They approached slowly, translated across hundreds of languages. We welcome dialogue. We acknowledge Earth's progress. Let us speak as equals. The Terran ships allowed them to dock. And for the first time in 2 centuries, the galaxy saw a human again. And it was not what they remembered. Tall, composed, eyes that saw through screens, flesh and facades, clothed in seamless suits woven from living tech. surrounded by floating AIs that watched and waited, alive but silent. The human who greeted them didn't smile, didn't bow, didn't threaten. They simply said, "We've come to help, because you clearly needed it." Not arrogance, observation, because what Earth saw now was a galaxy pretending it was still in control. Patchwork systems held together with outdated thinking. Alliances forged from fear. Technology advanced on paper, but hollow in spirit. The galaxy had grown, yes, but had also stalled. And Earth? Earth had evolved. The humans didn't want power. They didn't want seats on a council. They didn't want applause. They just wanted to fix what was broken. And in doing so, they made one thing very, very clear. They were never going to ask again. The cracks didn't start with war. They started with questions, whispers behind closed doors, quiet challenges in forgotten council chambers. Why weren't the humans included? If they were this advanced, who decided they weren't ready? What else have we been told that wasn't true? For centuries, the Galactic Accord had been the authority, the structure, the voice that declared who belonged and who didn't. But now they were being outclassed by a species they had once deemed too primitive to join. And worse, they were being helped by them. Human ships didn't just fix failing infrastructure. They improved it. Quantum stabilizers, energy fields, communications that no longer needed relays. And they gave it all away. No contracts, no treaties, just quiet deliveries, silent upgrades. And that's what broke the Union faster than any bomb. Because people talk. And when one species receives a miracle and the others are still drowning in bureaucracy, the fractures begin. Entire systems started questioning their place in the Accord. Why are we still paying tribute to the Council when the Terrans don't ask for anything? Why are we forbidden from building human tech if it's saving lives? What else are we being kept from? It spread. Fast. Rebellious senators. Academics publishing classified truths. Civilians painting Earth's symbol on their walls. A circle split by a rising line. The horizon. The Union scrambled to control the narrative. They called Earth a rogue actor. Accused humans of destabilizing the Accord. Claimed their gifts were manipulation. But the problem wasn't humanity. The problem was the mirror they held up. And the galaxy didn't like what it saw. For every world that pushed back against the Terran presence, 3 more asked for it. For their tech, their medicine, their knowledge. And not as servants, as equals. Some Accord members began drafting independent treaties. Others removed their Union representatives entirely. One mid-sized empire, the Zalari Corps, formally broke ties and aligned themselves with Earth. Not out of desperation, out of admiration. In one of their broadcasts, their chancellor said, "We served the Accord for 3 centuries. We grew tired of being tolerated. Earth doesn't tolerate us. Earth empowers us." That speech was played across over 600 systems in a single day. And that night, 6 more factions declared neutrality. The Accord was unraveling, not because Earth had attacked, but because Earth had proven something dangerous, that they didn't need the galaxy. And worse, the galaxy needed them. The galaxy finally does what it should have done centuries ago. But Earth has changed. And this time, it's not asking to belong. It came wrapped in gold. A transmission, elegant and polished, carried on every major channel from the Accord's High Council. They called an invitation, an apology, an opportunity to restore unity through inclusion, to finally give Earth a seat at the table, a full member of the Galactic Accord, voting rights, trade access, influence, respect. It was everything humanity had once hoped for, everything we were denied. But when the message reached Earth, the response wasn't applause. It was silence, not because we were flattered, because we'd already moved on. For Earth, that offer came a few centuries too late, back when we needed validation, back when we still believed the galaxy's respect was something worth chasing. Now we were something else entirely. And so, Earth responded, not with a parade, not with a speech, with a message. For words, "We decline your invitation." It rippled across space like a detonation. Every faction, every world, every outpost, shocked, confused. The Accord tried to spin it, said Earth was arrogant, said it was a misunderstanding, said negotiations were ongoing. But it wasn't a negotiation. It was a reversal. Because the truth was this: humanity didn't need a seat at someone else's table. We built our own, and others had already joined. Former outcasts, fringe species, independent thinkers tired of waiting for permission. We called it the open path. No hierarchy, no central government, just mutual development, free exchange, and shared defense. A network built on merit, not legacy. It wasn't polished. It wasn't perfect, but it was alive. And in every corner of the galaxy, more systems were leaning toward Earth, not out of fear, but belief. Because what humanity offered wasn't domination. It was freedom, the freedom to grow, to experiment, to fail and rise again. The Accord couldn't offer that anymore. They had laws, traditions, protocols. We had momentum. And when species started choosing Earth's way over the old way, the Accord began to panic. They accused us of sedition, of destabilizing galactic unity, of corrupting younger civilizations. But the younger civilizations weren't listening to the old warnings anymore. They were listening to the results, to the clean water, to the new cures, to the skyports rebuilt in days instead of decades, to the human ships that came not with flags, but with solutions. The Accord's authority wasn't being taken. It was being abandoned, not by force, by choice. And in that choice was the truth. Humanity didn't rise to power. It rose beyond it. No armies, no speeches, no vengeance, just a quiet message, and the weight of a legacy that reshaped the stars. Let's end this right. It began as a whisper, a soft pulse, riding on old frequencies, carried across the same networks that once ignored Earth's voice. This time, no one looked away. A single transmission, no encryption, no demand for acknowledgement, just a message from Earth. No president, no council, no general, just a voice, calm, clear, human. To the civilizations of the galaxy, we remember when you said we weren't ready. We remember the door you closed. And we remember how you moved on, thinking we'd never catch up. You were right. A pause. We didn't catch up. We passed you. Not in anger, not in mockery, just truth. But we're not here to punish you. We're here to remind you. The transmission cut to images. A library being constructed on a comet. A Terran ship refueling a broken colony station. No credits exchanged. A Zalari child learning to read from a human tablet in her native tongue. A water filter activated on a desert world. Clean water spraying from the ground. Laughter in the background. Then, Earth, alive, vibrant, whole. The voice returned. You can keep your seats, your rules, your hierarchy. We never needed them. We're building something else, something better. No treaties, no chains, just freedom. The message didn't ask for loyalty. It didn't recruit. It simply ended with coordinates. A location, a beacon, a place anyone could come to, regardless of species, history, or status. A meeting point for those who wanted to write the next chapter together. Not above each other, beside each other. And across the stars, something began to shift. Not loud, not sudden, but deep. Accord systems went quiet, some in thought, others in mourning. Factions once loyal to the Union sent exploratory ships toward the open path. Old enemies shared comms for the first time in generations. And on distant worlds, people looked up, toward the sky, toward Earth, not in fear, not in envy, but in wonder, because humanity had become more than legend, more than power. We had become the standard by which the future would be measured. And in quiet corners of space, in scattered bars and bunkers and schoolrooms, a new phrase took root. Simple, hopeful, spoken in dozens of tongues. If they could do it, maybe we can too. A child on a mining colony watched the stars that night. His father pointed to a faint glow, barely visible, blinking near a gas giant. That's a Terran ship, he said. The child asked if they'd ever meet one. His father smiled. Maybe, but if not, they'll still be watching. Above them, the beacon pulsed once more. Quiet, steady, human.